All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello from wherever, whenever you are watching and taking us in. It is a pleasure to have you here. I know if you're watching on YouTube, it looks as though I'm coming to you from a department store window at the Mark Thompson Show department store. These are all of our merch items, you know, the tote bag, the hoodie, we have the wine that's at Tenuta Vineyard. They're one of they sponsor a newscast from time to time, so we love to show them some love. The coffee cup, just like Daddy uses.
Good morning, Daddy.
And, all the stuff. That's why it looks the way it does. Good morning to Kim. Kim is with us for the whole day today. Very excited about that. And Tony is in the mix.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. Tony is, Tony cleans up our mess usually after the show. Like he posts stuff, he'll get the chapters going. There, Tony put up the Mark's merch site for a brief second. You can see that. And I don't know what angered him, but
well, Tony, what angered you?
But he's
we don't have enough time.
Yeah,
that's a long list.
Life has got to
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, all right. I'm doing a YouTube appearance on a big international show after this show is done.
You know who I am?
Yes.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I'm not saying I'm a big deal, but I should, because I am a big deal.
Do you know who I am?
I am.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I will tell you, because you are my friends, you are in our community that watches this show. I consider even those who disagree with me on certain things, I consider you in our community. That's the way communities, families, friends are. Don't agree on everything. I don't really know what this show is that I'm doing after this one.
Wait a minute. How do
I
you
want
not
to.
know?
I want to increase our subscribership. And Tony told me, you have to go on other YouTube shows and other shows because that's where you'll find other subscribers. And people eventually. It's a very slow process, but they'll come to your show. So
Thanks, Tony.
I am doing that after the show with some show that's in Europe, I think. I know that they keep talking about Greenwich Mean Time. You know what I mean? Like that's when they, you'll start GMT. They give me that. Okay. So you can say, well, that's kind of cool, GMT. But I hate to go on a show where I don't really know what they're doing. You can get into trouble that way, right? So I said, hey, listen, if you guys could send me, everything seems great. If you could send me. Also, you want to know, what vibe you should have when you go on a show, right? You want to know, should I be a smart ass? Should I be irreverent? Is it a political show where I'm offering some political analysis? You get it. Am I talking about me? Am I talking about, media? And so I said, please send me links to your show so that I can just get a feel for, what you guys do. So she sent me one link. She said, we're kind of a newer show, and so I don't know.
What kind of show is it?
I'll tell you tomorrow, I guess.
Oh, God.
I don't even know where it's going to air. But we start right after this show, actually, at noon, GMT.
As Calvin says, we're looking for that 11,780. So we'll take some European clicks. Sure.
Yeah. No, 11,780 is what we're looking for. And we are closer. I don't like to always, look, count my money at the table type thing. But I do note that we are at about, I think, 11.4 now.
I just want to find 11,780.
So we're close. Just about 300 away.
Well, then we need to start developing a plan for the big celebration. I mean, what's to be done when we do eventually reach the number?
I don't have the bandwidth to develop any more plans. So if you would like to work on that, you can.
I love that.
I'm developing so many other plans. I'm dancing as fast as I can, but I am open to any plan. Tony, you have an idea what we should do for when we hit 11,780?
I just want to find 11,780.
No, actually, Kim, can you check your microphone? I think it's pulling from the webcam and not your regular
Kim's microphone sounds like it is.
I think it's pulling from your webcam. So check on your settings, make sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
Kim, if you could check, it seems like it's pulling from the thing that's it's pulling from. If you could check on that, I appreciate it.
Trying to help, man. I could have just said nothing, I guess.
I loved it. I just loved the way you said it, like you said it, engineering speak. It's pulling from, That's you got jargon going, even when you don't even want to have jargon going. No, I loved it. Loved it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, they look to be on course to, raise this debt ceiling. It's an 11th hour thing. I'm not super excited. I know that the Democrats are claiming it was a victory, and, on some level, maybe it was a victory, is a victory, that they got this past the loons that are the extremes, I would say, associated primarily with the GOP. I mean, there are extremes on the left as well, and I don't mean to dismiss them in the least, but on this issue of raising the debt ceiling, it felt as though it was a GOP gun to the head moment. That said, I'm really downcast over the sellout of the environment that this administration has been okay with. I really am. And I know that this guy is he's greener than the GOP. He's greener than Trump. He's greener than, these efforts to dismantle the EPA under the prior administration. They were largely successful. They were infesting the prior administration with polluters, making them essentially in charge of the very departments that were charged with protecting the environment. Having coal lobbyists and corporate polluters running these various agencies like the EPA, but what Interior Department as well. That's when I say various agencies. But what really bums me out is that we've greenlit the Willow project, that we've okayed this pipeline through Appalachia. We spoke of it the other day. It's I don't consider it I think if you care about the environment, you may not be a full-blown tree hugger the way I am, but it sucks, just to put it in a word. And so I'm not happy. No, I'm not happy. And I'm glad the country's still on course, and I'm glad that our retirement funds are still, going to be protected by the fact that the crazies haven't defaulted on U.S. debt. But I'm not happy with where we ended up. So you can say, well, maybe you would have been happier if the GOP had their way. I get it. But it's not, you have to have priorities. And what's the old line? Don't tell me your priorities, show me your budget, and I'll tell you your priorities. If you look at the U.S. budget, what's our priority? The military. It's insanity. It's the one part of all these budgetary and debt negotiations that no one wanted to touch. You don't want to seem weak on defense of the country. So, Laurie says, I saw an article saying McCarthy is some kind of political genius for getting bipartisan deal passed. This is the thing. Both the heads of both parties, the head of one you could look at as McCarthy, the head of the other, Biden, they're going to spin it. Their people are going to spin it their way. But, hey, I didn't mention yet, and it's because I am a bad host.
Uh-oh.
I didn't mention, you still sound like you're, what did you say? Pulling from the wrong, what is it, Tony? Drawing from the wrong, pulling from the something?
Yeah, I think is it still going to the webcam?
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to the webcam.
Okay, I'm going to try again.
Under settings, maybe. I don't know. Under settings. Try turning the whole house off.
Under settings.
For about 5 minutes.
Audio.
Yes.
It should
Could you reboot the whole neighborhood, maybe?
I'm going to have to. Bye.
Yeah. You do that. And
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to tell you what's coming up because it's pretty cool. I am very excited about what's happening at the bottom of this hour after Kim's news. If you've watched Hell's Kitchen, if you've watched Kitchen Nightmares, if you've watched American Ninja Warrior, if you've watched the Olympics, you have seen the work of our guest today in this first hour. He'll be on right after Kim's news. His name is Arthur Smith, and I have always respected his work because he does such a broad range of things. I mean, from Hell's Kitchen, the Gordon Ramsay show, to American Ninja Warrior, which is this great athletic display of intense competition, and then a ton of other shows in between. He is just capable of so much, He has a new book, and the book is good because it details a bunch of this stuff I've talked about. It has a bunch of good stories, and I'll get him to share some of them with you, and we'll do that bottom of the hour. So that's coming up. And at, of course, 11:05 on Thursdays, we check in with David Katz, the former federal prosecutor, and we'll talk about the closing in of yet more walls legally on the former president. Donald Trump is on a recording, as you know, talking about documents that he's taken from the White House, talking about a plan to invade Iran that he says Mark Milley was pushing. Now, I want to say one thing, and I haven't heard it anywhere. I'm always hearing look at what you hear. Two things. Look, this is admission by Donald Trump that he knew that it was illegal for him to take these documents, because he does talk about the fact that these are classified documents. I can't show them to you, but they show an investigation, an invasion of Iran on the list of strategies that Milley is posting. So there's that, the clear knowledge of illegality, if you will. And then the other is, why is everybody paying attention to that when the thing you should be paying attention to is the fact that this country was drawing up plans to invade Iran? And there's somebody high up in government in Milley who was pushing it. Well, there's one other thing, and no one is I haven't seen it anywhere. Maybe it has been there. Why does everybody assume that that's what's in the document? Trump waves a document. He says that's what's in it. He doesn't show it to anybody. He does say it's classified. And then he tells you that Milley, who he has a huge feud with at the time, this is the time they're writing a book for Mark Meadows, okay, the president's advisor. That's this whole thing, and this tape recording is in the context of a book for Meadows. Anyway, he just waves the document, doesn't show it to anybody, and says that's what Milley was planning. We don't know that that's what's in the document. So I'm not necessarily presuming that that is legit. I mean, it's true, Donald Trump has never lied before, but I would think, you see what I mean? It's hard to believe that that would be real. But in any case, we'll talk to David Katz about that.
Do I sound a little better?
You sound better, Kim. Much, much better.
Well, and then I have a major announcement.
Oh, what is the... I don't have my major announcement. Yeah,
Kim C has kicked out about $50 to the Mark Thompson show.
Wow.
And
that is a major announcement.
Hey, Mark, I would love to see Mark Merchant, a My Bad, I'm Sorry apron. Oh, merchandise. A My Bad, I'm Sorry apron and a half zip sweatshirt and maybe a Why Are You Yelling imprint for winter.
Wow.
Love you guys. You brighten every day, weekday. Well, nice.
Wow. That is not only, first of all, big shout out.
Big shout out.
For $49.99. Thank you, Kim C. But also, thank you for the suggestion, the My Bad suggestion.
My bad. I'm sorry.
So My Bad, I'm Sorry apron and a half-zip sweatshirt and maybe a Why Are You Yelling imprint for a winter. It's true. We don't have a Why Are You Well, we have a Why Are You Yelling...
Why are you yelling?
Mug. Like I have on this mug the Where My Weed Smokers At. Mm-hmm. Because we use that drop.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Yeah. But we don't have we have a My Bad mug, but we don't have it on anything else. That's interesting. I like that suggestion, actually. So thank you. And thank you very much for the contribution. That means a lot. We are crowdfunded, so I hate to say it, but we need to stop the show and thank people who fund us. You know what I mean? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Gail Guthrie, always that. Gail Guthrie, she may be on the way to having a statue on Thompson Terrace.
You think so?
Yeah, in the metaverse. I really
Drive,
do.
yes.
No, that's Circular Drive, and that's beautiful outpost. It's a
trees
vista.
blowing in the wind, and there's a statue.
The virtual trees blowing in the virtual wind. You might be on your way, Gail. There are others too, but I'm just noticing Gail. And thank you for that. Thank you for the 1999. I want to say thank you. Yeah. Lori says, in honor of Daniel D's new Mark Thompson tote bag that he should be receiving very soon.
Nice.
That is very nice. Tote bag gets applause. The tote bag is I think one of our strongest items at getmarkmerch.com.
I need to get one of those.
It really is great. It totes and it holds things, which is what you want from a tote bag. And it's our Eco Mark tote. You can find it at getmarkmerch.com.
We should have a tote bag that says, with a little picture of the Earth, "It's the planet, stupid," with the little cartoon on there. Because, that's why you're taking your bag to the store, to help save the planet.
Oh,
There's
yes.
plastic bags flying around everywhere, right? It's the planet, stupid.
Yeah, you're right. Again, these are good suggestions. Well, I actually pinged the merch people yesterday. And the reason I usually leave them alone because they have enough stuff to worry about. The apron sound, Lori, and I'll finish this in a second. Lori says, apron sounds cool. And Lori, by the way, usually first into the show, even before we're on the air, like in the 8 o'clock hour on Pacific time. I don't know what that is, GMT. But in the 8 o'clock hour, she's in there. She's going, hi, everybody. It's usually Lori. The apron sounds cool and unusual, perfect for the less than perfect cook. I like the idea of socks. When my school looked into socks, there was something prohibitively expensive about them. Lori, it's quite cool that you would mention socks because, as I was saying, I hit our merch people yesterday. And as I was also saying, I usually leave them alone, but I said, hey, I showed them what we talked about yesterday, which was the QAnon shaman and his merch site, which is insane. He's got everything. I mean, he's going to be a billionaire, the QAnon shaman.
Oh, it looks good.
Yeah. So they said, wow, that's a lot of stuff. I mean, their site looks good. But I said, well, forget about that. I like that he's got socks. So, Lori, your socks idea coincides with my socks idea. I don't know that we're going to get socks, but I'm just saying it's in the pipeline as something that's being talked about. And Sean says, Trump 2024, right on, brother. Make America great again, Sean. Yeah. It was great again. When was it great, America? I mean, it's versions of great. Don't get me wrong. There's great stuff about America. I'm an American. I studied overseas. I couldn't wait to get home. I'm an American through and through, but I'm not going to say great again. Anyway, we've got some stuff to work out. That's all I'm saying. Your flaws in the system. But I don't know if you are aware of this, but there's something going on, and this is something going on in Florida. We do a lot of politics on the show and everything, but we try to do things that are not always political, and so there's this.
The Mark Thompson Show.
SeaWorld Orlando broke the law after a dolphin there was attacked. The question is asked, why is it still open?
Who attacked the dolphin?
Well, the 25-year-old dolphin was given pain medication after it was found nearly a third of his body covered in both scrapes and deep cuts, injuries he'd sustained from other bottlenose dolphins in his pool at SeaWorld in Orlando. Scar tissue indicated these attacks have been going on for a while. Let me tell you quickly something that you may or may not know, and that is when you put these whales and dolphins in the same tank, there's this sense, this is our idiocy, and I don't know, as a species, we are just so myopic. Because they look the same, We think they are the same. They're not. They're territorial. They speak different languages. They communicate in different ways. And they will gang up and try to kill others and bully others in this enclosed space. They're not used to being in enclosed spaces. The evolutionary way that dolphins came to be necessitates that they have miles and miles and miles to swim every day so that these territorial issues don't even come up. You take them and put them in a bathtub, they look together alike, but you put them there together and they are, and there it is. They are distressed. And so the 25-year-old dolphin was attacked 3 days after, let me give you the details. He was prescribed pain medication, not separated from the group, though, that created these issues. This is just last year. 3 days later, SeaWorld staff found Rascal, the dolphin, on the side of his pool, bleeding from many deep rake marks that were, quote, warm to the touch on his face, fins, and body. It's not uncommon for animals, including marine animals, to display aggression in captivity. When inspectors with the USDA, which enforces the Animal Welfare Act, visited for an announced relicensing inspection in December, they cited SeaWorld for this incident, as well as for chlorine readings that exceeded the maximum level.
Oh, no.
The USDA also requested that SeaWorld provide more information, including water quality data, specific animals' medical records, and daily logs. But SeaWorld failed to hand over any records. In January, the USDA cited SeaWorld for that and issued the facility an official warning for failing to furnish that required information and requested information. Nonetheless, the USDA reissued SeaWorld's Orlando's animal exhibitor license. I mean, that is a, quote, blatant violation, they say here, of the Animal Welfare Act. It is. The Animal Welfare Act stipulates that facilities may only have their license reissued if they're in full compliance with that law.
They say they have demonstrated a pattern of neglect to prioritize business interests over animal welfare.
The entire idea is despicable, of course. You don't have these animals jump for you, and you put them in these horribly small enclosures. There's, as I say, they're forced to coexist with creatures that may look like they look, but they're not. Andre Bell, a USDA spokesperson, told the press that the agency takes the welfare of animals very seriously. SeaWorld completed all relicensing requirements, which include a relicensing inspection to demonstrate full compliance with the Animal Welfare Act and associated regulations. You know what this is? Money. Money.
It's some BS is what it is. This breaks my heart.
Every day that SeaWorld is open should break your heart. Yep. It's an abomination. We don't know what we don't know, said one of the inspectors. What's in those records must be so bad that SeaWorld was willing to risk potential blowback to not comply with the USDA's request. That's a quote. It's just a sign of a bad actor who is not acting in good faith, they say. SeaWorld, no comment. The Association of Zoos and Aquariums, which purports to accredit only gold standard animal facilities, is, quote, aware of the issues at SeaWorld.
I mean, they've already had issues with their orcas. Here's one of them at that SeaWorld Orlando. They've already had issues. Now we have issues with dolphins. These are creatures that need to be in the sea. They need to be wild and in the sea.
The incident with this dolphin is apparently not the only incident of animal aggression at SeaWorld Orlando. In 2022, again, just last year, a visitor posted a video on TikTok in which another dolphin, its face bloody, laid on the side of the concrete tank. And in the months since the USDA's warning, it appears SeaWorld hasn't been fined or otherwise penalized. I had film in my mind because of the documentary Blackfish, which was so powerful. It really spoke to, and if you haven't seen it, the absurdity and horror associated with the kidnapping and display of these creatures. It's truly grotesque. So I'd like to see SeaWorld close down, put some affordable housing in there, turn it into a parking lot if you want to. But it's a humanitarian horror, and it deserves to be closed. So, sorry. Merry Christmas, everybody.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, I'm going to be a downer, but it's just wrong, just wrong. And here we have a government agency which has been sapped of a lot of money. The USDA under Trump was defunded, to use the word, in large measure. Their operating budget went way down. So they're already, when it comes to meat production and comes to humanitarian standards, they're already a shadow of what they were. And they find, or I should say, they noted and cited, but didn't fine SeaWorld going back to last year. So if they're doing it, an agency that's already been sapped of a lot of their power, if you want to think of it that way, in terms of their regulatory power, I think that speaks to how horrifying conditions are at SeaWorld.
I have a family member who wanted to meet at SeaWorld in San Diego. And I said, "Oh, we don't go to SeaWorld. We don't take the kids to SeaWorld." She said, "Why?" I said, "Well, because I don't believe that keeping whales and dolphins in captivity is good or kind. I have that's my, I'm not as big of an animal person as you are. I'm not a vegetarian, but I have a huge problem with that. I just really feel like they should be free in the sea." And she said, "Well, if we don't have any in captivity, how will we study them? How will that happen?" I'm thinking, get your butt on a boat and go into the ocean and study them. Don't bring them to a tank. So frustrating.
You need to imprison things to study them? It's
Right.
absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Smash the like button if you, sorry for the...
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Smash it for the downer story that's SeaWorld. Smash it because you're pissed off. That's right.
With your iron
Smash
rod.
it because of the outrage.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Smash it because you want it closed.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Give us a thumbs up. By the way, no one has received the rod of equity and mercy around here in a while. We've had it, I think everybody on the show now and all the Patreon and PayPal subscribers have received the rod of equity and mercy, but I don't think anybody, maybe Arthur Smith, the award-winning producer who is joining us. His new book is out, and it's good, with all of these stories of producing Gordon Ramsay's show and American Ninja Warrior and all this. He's got some really good stuff in there. Maybe he will be worthy, but we will all evaluate together. Kim's news, and then Arthur joins us. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by the fine people at Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore.
Tenuta!
Let us start with the debt ceiling, because now we've got a deal. The House has passed a bill that would suspend the nation's debt ceiling for 2 years. Lawmakers voting 314 to 117 on this 99-page measure yesterday, as the deadline to avoid a potential default is just days away. Still needs to pass in the Democratic-controlled Senate before heading to President Biden's desk, but it looks like it's on its merry way. Some companies are pulling job offers from prospective employees. They say, "We'd like to hire you," and then they say, "My bad."
What?
Sorry. Yeah, no can do. It's a fear of a slowdown in the economy that is yet to come. NBC News reports companies like Meta, Amazon, and crypto firm Coinbase have all pulled recent offers from people that they wanted to hire. New numbers from LinkedIn show hiring for entry-level roles is down 37% for those without a college degree, and is even more so for those with a college degree, interestingly. So, hard to get a job right now, I guess. And even if you get one, you don't count your money until you're actually sitting in the chair in the office.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way it works. I don't know. I hate when they
pull an offer.
Yeah, that's kind of frustrating. President Biden, unfortunately, the Senate expect to vote on a measure to block President Biden's student debt relief program. The resolution would repeal the Biden administration's program to cancel up to $10,000 in loans for borrowers whose income falls before a certain level, and up to $20,000 for those who receive Pell Grants. Proponents argue the debt forgiveness program is unfair to taxpayers who paid off loans when they borrowed money, or for those who did not attend college at all. Not fair. Spirit Airlines says travelers might experience longer lines due to a technical issue today. The budget airline says the issue brought down its website, its app, and its airport kiosks this morning. Spirit wrote on Twitter that passengers should plan on arriving to the airport very, very early. Oh, it's another one of these situations. I think what we have here is a situation.
A situation. I don't know about that.
Mean,
what he's got going here is a situation.
You don't ever want that software glitch to affect your whole airline situation.
Yeah, that's not, you don't want, there are too many other reasons for delays.
Cancellations, and everyone's upset at the airport and throwing around luggage, and it's quite the mess. Nobody's.
By the way, 666 people in the live feed right now. So as we continue. Yeah.
Thank you for pointing
that out. Sign of the devil. Thank you.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. That's wonderful. Let's get to a story about Twitter. I'll take President Biden off of the thingy here. Twitter, a report shows the company hasn't been removing hate speech posted by accounts subscribed to Twitter Blue. The nonprofit Center for Countering Digital Hate said its researchers gathered such tweets from 100 verified paid Twitter Blue accounts and reported them to the social media platform. Twitter didn't act on 99% of the flagged tweets, and all accounts remained active as of 4 days later. So it looks like they're not doing the things they said they would be doing. Maybe if you give them money, you can just say whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
kind of like the Mark Thompson show, We'll read your chat if you contribute. It's a
how dare you?
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, we have standards.
Robert De Niro is a daddy. He's a big daddy again. The 79-year-old actor telling the Today Show he's very happy. De Niro welcoming his 7th child, Gia. He said he's a different parent today because of his awareness of certain things in life.
Yeah.
So yesterday it was Al Pacino becoming a dad at 83, and now Robert De Niro is saying he's welcoming Gia. We didn't know her name before, and he is 79. So,
well, it's cool that the second half of his life can be filled with a new child.
Well, I guess got to fill it with something. I'd like to see him chase that kid down.
I'm guessing he'll farm the chasing out to others.
Yeah, maybe hire a big nanny. I don't know. Canines can keep working in California. There is a bill going through the state legislature, now dropped into the so-called inactive file. California Assembly member Corey Jackson proposed it. Doesn't have enough support, I guess. Law would have banned the use of canines to help make arrests and control crowds unless there's an imminent threat of danger or death. Advocates say this bill is a racial issue, as historically dogs have been used against Black and brown people. Police oppose the bill. They say the dogs de-escalate situations just by showing up, and saying they prevent more serious violence or deaths. The Assemblyman's office says he hopes to work with police to bring this bill back next year. So we'll see if that has anything, any weight on it.
Who knew it was as controversial as it is?
I never thought about it. I mean, I guess, I just thought police dogs are kind of cool. I didn't realize that there was an issue. I
just thought I thought police dogs are kind of cool, dude. I don't know what the problem is. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Exactly.
Yeah,
they're cool, man. And the thing, I don't know how they get, how they wear that holster and stuff, but they're cool.
They're cool. A new study by Wallet Hub says Cleveland is the worst city in the United States to raise a family. Anybody want to move to Cleveland? A Wallet Hub is a personal finance website. They use criteria like family fun and health, safety, affordability, socioeconomics to put together their list. It was comprised of 182 most populated cities, Cleveland taking the 182nd spot on the list, meaning
this is Casey Kasem on American Top 40 in Hollywood.
That's right. Cleveland is taking the 182nd spot.
Place to raise a family.
It's the worst spot in America, moving ahead of Detroit, Michigan. Congratulations.
Apparently, they have very high separation and divorce rates there. So that's one of the reasons. They also have a high percentage of families living in poverty. They've got a large violent crime rate per capita.
Okay, I'm convinced already.
A low median salary. But you know what the number one best city to raise a family is? Guess?
It's a major city?
It's in the Bay Area.
San Jose.
I'm not going to say. You're very, very close. The sparkling metropolis of Fremont, California.
Wow, they're right there in the East Bay.
The best place to raise a family.
This is Casey Kasem on American Top 40 in Hollywood.
Congratulations to Fremont, California. Top of our survey.
I mean,
very good.
Fremont, it's kind of East Bay, but it's also kind of a little Silicon Valley. So it's kind of hovering.
That's true.
Right in the middle.
That is true. Yeah.
Why not?
Home of the Tesla plant. Yeah.
For this spot for the Tenuta Vineyards folks, I would like to read a message that I just got from Don. He says, my wife and I visited Tenuta Winery on Memorial Day. We smashed it with our iron rod and we got the 10% discount.
Yeah.
We tasted
it with your iron rod.
Right.
We tasted 10 bottles of wine or 10 wines, and we bought 3 bottles of wine, including a Why Are You Yelling, which is very, very good, by the way.
Yes.
Why are you yelling?
It is. It's been recognized as an outstanding wine by vintners around the world.
And so they walked away with some pretty good wine and had a lovely Memorial Day experience, which, we can't ask for more than that. They got their 10% off, and they also had a lovely picnic out at the winery. So here's a picture that Dawn sent in. It's really, really cute. And this was their Memorial Day out at Tenuta Vineyards in the lovely Livermore area. Look at that. Oh, that's their little tasting.
That is beautiful.
Flight.
And it's a gorgeous place. You should get the discount, reach them, and congratulations to them for having
There's their flight
patronized
of wine.
Tenuta. That's a flight that will let you. It's a tasting. Yeah.
You're looking out over the beautiful vineyards there. And yeah, it's wonderful. So let me tell you that you can call Tenuta Vineyards and you can say, smash it with your iron rod and get your 10% off. And don't delay. They've got a new website, by the way. It's Tenuta, Tenuta winery.com. Or you can call Rich at 925-699-4576. And you can not only reserve your appointment to go out there and taste, or you can just say, smash it with your iron rod and send me that Why Are You Yelling red. So there you go. Tenuta Winery in Livermore.
Good stuff.
I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show. The Mark Thompson Show. The Mark Thompson Show.
I can't believe you, Kim, could keep this guy waiting in the green room. How dare you? I've got an award-winning producer waiting to come on. I've got him as a guest, and the news ran forever.
I'm sorry.
You have all these important stories to do and news. You had to be so newsy. Can't believe it. I apologize in advance to this guy. I've been wanting to. I want to tell you, and I said this at the beginning of the show, and I'll say this now in introducing you to him. I've had such immense respect and love of his stuff for so long. Ever since he came onto the scene, I loved his Gordon Ramsay shows, Hell's Kitchen, Kitchen Nightmares, and he has reinvented the way so many different formats have been done. So many different ideas for shows took on new life under his production mantle. I'll tell you, Paradise Hotel comes to mind. And American Ninja Warrior is one of my favorite shows. And it's a mix of athletics, and it's also, and bizarre athletics at that. I want to talk to Arthur about this, and also backstories. So speaking of backstories, he's got a new book. The book is called Reach, and it's his backstory. It's how he got to this place of being an award-winning producer. He's worked with everyone from The Rock to Little Richard, and he's got great stories in this book. Welcome him now, Arthur Smith, everybody. Arthur, I'm sorry you had to wait.
No, it was all interesting. I was actually enjoying Kim's news. It was all good.
Well, Kim, I retract that then. I retract my criticism. Hey, Arthur, I'm going to jump right in. First of all, the book is great. It's got great stories, but your personal story is one I never would have guessed. And for some of that, I will leave it to the book to tell it, although it's worth talking about the fact that you weren't some showbiz family that came into Hollywood connected. You really forged your own path, and you did it through an abiding love of sports, and sports brought you into the world of Hollywood. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but I grew up as the shyest of all kids. And Mark, you know this because you read the book, but there's something that happened to me when I, of course, I get on the air and I can't clear my throat. But something happened to me when I was 9 years old, and it changed my life. I was the type of kid who had, my parents were worried about me. And it's there where I subconsciously learned what I call the power of reach, which is the title of the book. Once I discovered the power of reach, even though some of it was discovered subconsciously, it led me to reach and put myself out there. And, I say often in the book, and I've said it when I talk to young people, that you only realize your full potential unless you reach beyond what you think you can do. And
it's you do return to this theme through the book, and it's interesting because I see in you this great both competence, like you're going to get the job done right, and the reach. Like you have to come. It's not enough just to reach. Maybe would be the thing I would say. You reached with the stuff to bring stuff together that many never would have thought possible. So I want to click right through to, and again, I'll leave a little bit to those who will read this book and enjoy it. So I'll leave the Olympics behind. I'll leave you ran Fox Sports. That's when I first became aware of you, when you were running the sports division, a division at Fox that was involved in sports. And what I learned from the book was this leap you made into non-scripted. You don't like to call it reality TV, but that's how we kind of know it. Yeah. And you made this leap, and that was a gutsy move.
Yeah, no, at the time I was, I had this great deal at Fox Sports. I had a lot of fun there, but, I had worked at, Dick Clark. Dick Clark got me my green card. So I had worked at Dick Clark before. So, and when I moved to LA, after being a sports producer and head of CBC Sports in Canada, I never thought I would go back to sports. My intention was to leave sports and to do entertainment programming with Dick Clark. And as you know, when I moved to LA, Mark, and I know you've spent a lot of time on the Fox airwaves. By the way, Mark was the excellent voice of Paradise Hotel. I mean,
I love that. I love that show too. Yeah. Really loved it.
So, so at the time, I never, I never anticipated going back to sports. Yes, sports is a big love of mine, but television is my first love. And And around that time when I first moved to LA, I think Fox Network barely existed. I Married with Children, maybe The Simpsons was on, and then Fox got the rights to to football in '94, and then they called me in '95 and asked me to come back. And at the time, I was an executive at Universal, and I had no intention of going back. And at first, I said, I kind of stiff-armed it away and said, I've made the transition out of sports. I'm now an entertainment guy. And then I met with David Hill, who was the chairman, and everything changed. And I said to him, well, you have you have football, and you do it well. And I said, well, what am I going to do? And he said, well, you're going to be the head of programming and production. I said, are you offering me the job? And he went, not yet. We're still interviewing. I said, okay. But eventually they did. And then I went back to sports. But the whole time I was in sports, I was thinking about and missing the entertainment side of me. And so I knew that I wasn't staying there forever, but nonetheless, it was a big gamble for me. I call it the biggest reach of my life because I had this long-term deal at Fox Sports. I had, 2 young daughters, my wife, and I was leaving this well-paying job for nothing, for no income.
Yeah, you talk about it in the book. It's like a real inflection moment in your life, It's hard to imagine because this guy's had, you're really top of the pyramid. And, we know as readers that you end up in this good place. But even when you're reading the book, you're like, God, you're kind of rooting for the guy. And then you remember, oh, yeah, it all works out. But one of the things that I think makes your journey interesting, not to interrupt, because that was, as I say, a big moment in your life, that move to entertainment, to non-scripted stuff. You aren't sure that everything's going to work out. You don't walk in with the idea like, hey, man, I got this. There's a quality of trying to have your act together all the time and also being guarded. I mean, you talk about reach, but you are guarded, and you can see this kind of tug of war in your own mind about those things that you take on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm one of those people who analyzes, but I don't analyze to the point of not moving, which I think is very dangerous because I think people do that. And that's why I always say, try, get out there. And, some of the qualities that have helped me in my work are not great qualities in the rest of my life. I'm very OCD. I'm very impatient. I say impatient people get there faster. And I'm very restless. So as a producer, these are good things. That's, it causes some issues in my other life. Other parts of my life, but I think I'm very focused, and I believe that when you narrow the target, you have a better chance of hitting it. When I was in college, I only wanted to work at one place, the CBC Sports. When I moved to LA, prior to moving to LA, when I looked at the LA landscape and entertainment programming, I wrote one letter, and that was it. I mean, sometimes it's not that smart to have because, you don't often, but I find I have a better chance of hitting my target when I narrow my focus and devote my energy. And I wrote one letter, and that letter was to Dick Clark. And shockingly, I got a letter back. And then, Dick and I had a 2-hour meeting. And then he said, I have no idea what to do with you. And then he called me 3 weeks later. Now, there's a story that's not in the book, Mark, that's kind of interesting, is that Dick Clark had he told me the story years after I was working with him. And he said, when I hired you, I have to confess to something. And I said, okay. He said, I have a distributor in Canada, this guy by the name of Harold Greenberg, who handles all my Canadian programs. American Music Awards gets distributed in Canada. It goes through a distributor. And he said, I called him for a reference because he's, a buddy of mine. He's someone I know in Canada. And I figured, you being the head of CBC Sports, he would know you. So I called him and I said, Harold, do you know anything about this Arthur Smith guy? And Harold said, yeah, no, I know him well. He says, I'm about to offer him a job. So Dick Clark hung up the phone and called me and offered me the job.
To Bigfoot to jump over the other guy.
Yeah. And I never knew what the job was, but Harold was this, he was kind of a mogul in Canada. He produced the movie Porky's. He owned cable channels.
I see.
But like I said, I don't know what the job was. It's better that I didn't know. Dick, by the way, it wasn't like Dick told me the next day. He told me years later.
Yeah.
It was just the funniest thing. And
that's terrific.
He offered me the job, but maybe not as quick.
I remember. Well, I remember in the book you talk about the Dick Clark conversation, and you had so many ideas. You had so much. Clearly, you were like somebody. You were going to be an asset to that organization. And sure enough, it took a couple of weeks, but they were like, "We don't know what we want to do with you, but we really like you, so you got to join us." So, in our limited time, I want to click ahead to one of the other stories I like, and I was always curious about this, and I didn't know this until I read your book. Because Arthur Smith and I share a friend, and that is this executive who's mentioned prominently in the book, Mike Darnell. And Mike Darnell is a pioneer in this reality or a non-scripted or non-fiction, whatever you want to call it, kind of television. He's done everything weird like Alien Autopsy, and he's done everything mainstream like American Idol. But you talk about meeting Gordon Ramsay. Okay, now Mike had told me, hey, Mark, I've got this guy, Gordon Ramsay. He's unreal. So that's like, I feel like I got in early on hearing about Gordon Ramsay, but you got in early as the guy who was being delivered Gordon Ramsay, but you had to bond with him, figure out a show with him, do all this stuff. So tell everybody the story of how you met Gordon Ramsay.
Well, Mike called me. I remember where I was. I was in the parking lot of the Grove, circling around trying to find a parking spot. And, the combination of that and talking to Mike Darnell, like I felt my head was spinning anyhow. So Mike says to me, he says, I have this idea to put you together with this guy, the chef by the name of Gordon Ramsay. Now, Gordon wasn't known in the country, in America by then. He was a Michelin star chef, very successful, but not known in America. And he says, I have this, you should see this show that he does called Hell's Kitchen in the UK. And I go, Mike, I said, a food show on network television. It doesn't work. It's not mainstream. It's not broad. He goes, well, that's what you're supposed to do. But he says, take a look at the tape. And I go, all right, like Mike's amazing. And Mark's right. Mike's a legend. And, if he would have told me to watch a burning log on tape, I would have watched the burning log on tape. I would have done anything for him. So I got home, I watched the tape. Gordon's amazing. It's a show called Hell's Kitchen, but not the Hell's Kitchen that we would end up doing. And right away, I said, Gordon's special, and I like the title, but I don't love the show. And then I sat down with Mike and talked to him about what I thought the show should be and how to broaden it out. I'm not a foodie. So, and food was in a much different place in America at that time. We've evolved as a nation. And, my first meetings with Gordon were really funny because, he would, in his Gordon way, would say, absolutely nothing about food.
Well, it was almost an awkward exchange that you had initially with him.
It was really awkward.
It was by no means clear that you guys were going to get along.
No. And in the end, what I said to him in response to that, I said, well, I know a lot about television. And I said, I promise you that everything that we will do will be purposeful in the show. And then I got into a whole conversation with him on what makes a great chef. And then we developed the show. And now I'm kind of a foodie and I've learned a lot from Gordon, but I made a show for me because I said, I want to reach a broad audience. And sure enough, but the funny thing, Mark, was at the time, Fox was very nervous about the show. There had never been anybody like Gordon Ramsay on television. And the show sat on the shelf for 6 months. And Mike and I were trying to convince the powers that be, the heads of the network, to put it on, and they just waited. And eventually they put it on, and then we went our time period.
No, but that's a great story in the book because it spoke to how earnest and passionate and anxious you were about it, and the recutting of the show, and then they changed management at Fox and they want it recut. That's just a great ride. I love that part of the book. But the other thing I want to ask you just on Gordon Ramsay, because I thought it was unreal. There's a bunch of stuff related to him, like he doesn't want to be spoken to during the show is what you heard, and yet you've got this massive production. He does need to know about what's happening, some distance from him in the opposing kitchen. They had two different opposing kitchens, and there's something going on he couldn't possibly know about. So you decided to tell him in his ear, and it turned into a thing, but it's kind of fun how it ended up. But what I wanted to ask you was a production thing, and this is a really awkward question I wanted to ask you, but I wanted to set it up with... because I'm curious with how many in the show you talk about, in the book, I should say, how many cameras were in Hell's Kitchen and the production challenge of building your own restaurant, which is what you had to do. You had to build a full-scale restaurant with maitre d's, with waiters, with two full gourmet kitchens, different ones, a red team and a blue team. And then you had to cover it all with cameras. To me, it was extraordinary. And so you have a whole list of things, and now I can't find it. But I guess what I want to ask you is, what did that cost? Do you remember just initially the sunk cost?
No.
You had like 80 cameras, literally.
Yes.
Didn't you, Arthur?
There weren't 80 cameramen. There were 80 robotic.
No, I get it.
cameras.
I get it.
Actually,
Right,
there were 73 robotics and 7 cameramen. But it shot. It's kind of like our version of the Truman Show, or kind of like Big Brother in a way. And the great thing about Hell's and which was great for the time, I think, in the unscripted business was, a lot of the people who were appearing on reality shows at that time were actors, bartenders, people who wanted 50 minutes of fame. The people who came on Hell's Kitchen, for the first time, we were seeing authentic people. They had no interest in being famous. They wanted to work for Gordon Ramsay. They wanted to advance their career. And so I wanted to protect, as much as I could, the authenticity of it. So that's why, when you shoot with robotics, you get a more authentic performance,
because they're not in people's face, is your point. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. They never feel the cameras, because the way we shoot the show. And yes, it was, we tried, when I had the idea for the show, we went on surveys looking at all kinds of restaurants, abandoned restaurants all over the city of LA. And there was nothing big enough. And I needed 2 kitchens. And kitchens, by the way, in most restaurants are tiny. They want to have as big a dining room as possible, have as many seats, and then the kitchens are really small. They're not, they have everything that they need, but they're not the size and scope that we needed to do what we wanted to do. So we came up with this idea, and we had this great art director who got nominated for Emmy Awards for the set. I mean, John Janus, who's amazing, and we built a restaurant. And listen, every couple of years we shoot two seasons back to back because of the expense. And then we tear it down and build it back up. So,
that's wild. And I ask about expense because it seemed like such a chance. That's why I asked. Not. It wasn't pure curiosity. Yeah. It's you detailed in the book all of these things. Webcams now are very common, but back then it was harder to find these cameras that would be obscured so that everybody wouldn't see them, and you had to shoot this reality show at the same time you're shooting the cooking part. So that's why I asked you about the cost, because it just seemed like, wow, this is a huge commitment both on the network and on Arthur's part. You're not sure how it's all going to work out.
Well, the good news is when you propose a show like that, they can't pilot it.
Right, I see. Yeah, they've got to give you it right.
Which is great, because, which is can be an advantage or can be a disadvantage, because I knew when we get the word go, and Mike was already intrigued by Gordon. And listen, you have to have people at the network who believe in you. Mike Darnell is, as I've talked about in the book, is the greatest unscripted executive of all time. He's just an amazing, and he has vision. He's the person at the network who you want supporting you, and he went for it with us, and listen, we knew we had something special with Gordon. Mike knew it, I knew it. Unfortunately, a lot of people at the network didn't believe in it, even after it was greenlit, and it sat on the shelf, and it was crazy. And then when it debuted, they put it on Memorial Day, and it was like,
yeah, that was your other anxiety. Nobody's going to see this,
yeah.
But it turned out to be a juggernaut. And then you did Hell's the Hell's Kitchen extension, Kitchen Nightmares, and that was brilliant too. And I used to watch that show on BBC, and you just turned it into another thing, man. You made it more American and more Fraxis exchanges, and it had a great reality to it. And then American Ninja Warrior is and I'm skipping over stuff, Arthur. I know. I mean, you've got this long list of great shows. But you pick up the book. The book is called Reach. But I do want to ask you about American Ninja Warrior, because I'm astounded by the stories, and I'm also astounded by the production challenge. I mean, it is immense, the show. We're showing a bit of it now. 2 questions. And I guess by now, people expect you to hit the ball with these huge challenges production-wise, because you've done it so many times. But what was involved in this? Can you give the audience a quick sense of what it was about?
Well, I mean, it's funny because we talked about my background in sports and my background in entertainment, and this was the marriage of both. And that's why Ninja is kind of a dream show for me. And I mean, there's no reason for an obstacle course show to be on primetime on NBC. And how it happened is covered in the book. It's a strange set of circumstances, a little bit of luck, how Ninja ended up on NBC. But there's so much that goes on in the off season of Ninja Warrior. We have a huge warehouse where we prototype and test everything. And through the years, the ninjas just keep getting better and better. Now the show's in its 15th season. It debuts on June 5th, next Monday. And it's just, when I look at some of the early seasons and I look at what they're doing now, the early seasons look like playgrounds. I mean, it looks like nothing. But there's kids who've grown up. It's been around almost their whole life. And for some people, it's been their whole life. We have 15-year-olds who now compete on the show. But for me, the love of the show is the stories, because and that's really what I've believe in so much. Television that makes you feel something. You can almost do a show about anything if you care about the characters, if you're vested in them. And before you run the course, you care about these people. You know something about these people, and I think it's just been Ninja's been a blessing and an amazing journey, and a shock, really a shock, because we were a show on G4 network,
right?
It was also a strange set of circumstances. When we talk about reaching, Hell's Kitchen at the time was a reach. There had never been a successful network food show. American Ninja Warrior was a reach because, there had never been anything like that on network television. And, even going back to Paradise Hotel, Mark, which you were the man, that you were our voice on our teases, and no one could sell Paradise Hotel like Mark Thompson. And at that time, it was maybe too sexy for the time. But what is Love Island nowadays, and what is Bachelor in Paradise? They're really extensions of Paradise Hotel. Paradise Hotel
Absolutely.
was a little bit ahead of its time, even though it had won its time period every week in the 18 to 34 demo. Fox was so nervous they didn't bring it back for a second season because they were worried about advertisers. Now it's kind of tame stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah. Now you look at Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah.
My God, it makes Paradise Hotel look like a day at the beach. We got to wrap up, but I love the book. I really did. Now, look, I love your stuff, but so does all of America. Look at the ratings for Paradise Hotel, Hell's Kitchen, American Ninja Warrior, celebrity duets, whatever the show was. And you talk about all of these things and how they were birthed. It's a really great ride. And again, I would say this, Arthur, you're so, I think, generous in a way when you talk about the reach, and the book is called Reach. But, you reached with the goods. You and your partner, Kent, who you talk about in the book as well, you both had distinct abilities, and it seemed like a really good marriage of abilities. And it's really exciting to take the ride back through your personal history. I congratulate you on it, man. Really nice job.
Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you for having me. I was looking forward to talking to you and catching up. A wonderful thing happened to me about a month ago. I was doing the audio version of the book, and the poor audio engineer, he has no choice. Mark, you had a choice to read this book or not. The audio guy, during the audio, 4 days of putting down the audio book, and he's an engineer. He's in the studio, and 6 or 7 hours a day, 4 days, I do the audio version. And the greatest thing happened to me. It was the greatest gift, my first gift from the book. I came out of it, and he said, I want to do more with my life. I want to start reaching. Can you spend some time with me and talk? And he says, I got really inspired by what you wrote, and I realized that I'm not living up to my full potential. And I went, oh my God, I got the shivers. I gave the guy a hug, and
wow.
It was very, very meaningful and very impactful to me, and very unexpected. So,
that's like a transcendental moment. Yeah, to think that your work touched someone that way. Yeah, I do think that, you can be inspired. There is stuff instructional, and then there's stuff that's just a great ride. I think it's a really good read. Congratulations, Arthur Smith. I look forward to the next conversation. Come visit again. You can promote anything. You come by anytime without even any excuse. We'd love to have you through, Arthur.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much.
Arthur Smith, everybody. The book is Reach, available now, and there's an audio version. Now you know that when the audio version was done, it produced quite the moment. So thanks again, Arthur. Arthur Smith, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, Arthur.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. Well, he's terrific. And now you know why I was agitated with Kim. for delaying Arthur. I wanted to get him right on.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah.
All I can tell you is it's 11:08 and it's time for news.
It is time for news now. And David Katz, who normally joins.
I really want to read that book.
Oh, he is terrific.
I don't feel like I'm living up to my full potential either.
Well, I was going to bring that up to you, actually.
What?
I feel if anybody needs the book.
Right?
No, I'm kidding, but we all could use the book that way. And just then taking the ride through so many things that were obstacles to him, but that he didn't view as obstacles. He talks about, obstacles can be opportunities, but you always hear that. But it's interesting to see those things played out in someone else's life in such a high-profile way. There's a lot at stake when you've got these, everybody from The Rock to Gordon Ramsay that you can't let down. And, networks are betting on you with a lot of money. That's kind of why I was asking about the money thing with Hell's Kitchen, because there's such a commitment required,
I have a neighbor who just had a big birthday, and her one wish was to go to the Hell's Kitchen restaurant. And so they've turned this into it's a thing. People go there, and it's a big money-making thing, and you get your picture taken in front of the Hell's Kitchen sign, and
sure.
Well,
Gordon Ramsay has the Gordon Ramsay brand is everywhere, and it's in I don't know how many restaurants he's got. He's got one in Las Vegas, I know, and I think he's got one in New York. He might have one in Los Angeles. But the actual Hell's Kitchen, like where they maybe replicate it or replicate the vibe or the look, I don't know. But, yeah. Mark, I would like you to book Gordon Ramsay on your show when you find time. Yes, it's really my schedule. I mean, Gordon just keeps pounding me with emails. Mark, I'd love to be on your show. I'm sorry, Gordon. We're just so very busy. We'll do our best, as always. What would you like to do, Kim McAllister? I felt it was a special moment to have Arthur Smith. So
it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you want to go to David Katz, talk a little bit about what's going on there, and then we can do a supersized news, bottom of the hour? Would that be okay? Okay.
There's a lot going on with politics right now. I'd love to hear what David Katz has
There's
to
a lot
say.
going on with politics and the law, too. Which is really where we So smash the like button with
your iron rod.
Give us a thumbs up if you possibly could. We'll check in with Katz, and we'll continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
David Katz is the former assistant U.S. attorney, and he is, as a result, I guess you call him, he's a former federal prosecutor, right? Now he works on the defense side of the ball, and he joins us. He's always on the move. Defending people doesn't always mean you stay in the office, Kim. David Katz is on the road a lot, but he always is here on Thursdays. He honors his obligation to this show. Please welcome David Katz, everybody.
Great to be with you, Mark. Kim.
Hi.
David,
Hi.
They have this new recording, which I was mentioning at the top of the show. Supposedly, it's a recording of Trump. Now, this is a recording made in the interview process for Mark Meadows' book. Okay. So that's the reason they were recording things. And it is Donald Trump talking about the fact, and he was in the time in kind of a feud with Milley, that Mark Milley had plans to invade Iran. I mean, he had drawn them up, and I've got them right here. He waved the document. Apparently, you can even hear the document crinkling. For a moment, I'm going to put aside what I said in the first hour, which is that I don't necessarily even believe that that's what was in the document. I mean, Trump has got a history, as you know, of not always being truthful. But if that were the case, and even considering that it may not be germane, it would suggest that he knows he's not supposed to have that. He referred to it as a classified document. Can you give me the legal ramifications of this?
Well, your first comment is so interesting because in American history, of course, we have McCarthyism. And people remember about Joseph McCarthy from history that he said, I have here in my hands the name of 55 subversives employed by the State Department. And he might have just had, his lunch list on it. So you're absolutely right, Mark, that who knows what Trump really had in his hand. But it makes a lot of sense, and it's, again, very damning for Trump. People will recall that there's the Access Hollywood tape that in any kind of normal circumstances would have been the end of his presidential campaign and his hopes. We also have the call into Georgia in very early January of 2021, where he tells the Secretary of State down in Georgia, hey, just find me 11,000 votes, meaning just concoct them. So Trump is famous for these self-inflicted wounds, but he has a base that seems to forgive him for everything, including were he to shoot someone on Fifth Avenue or to confess on tape that he shot somebody on Fifth Avenue. Having said all of that, this is very devastating because this tape, this time around, is in the hands of a special prosecutor who I think is very fair-minded. I always thought Mueller's inclination was not to indict Trump when it all came out. I think that was one reason why Mueller was selected, a Republican, selected by Republicans. But I think Jack Smith is right down the middle. And let's face it, most special prosecutors, especially when they have a lot of meat on the table, indict somebody. And, his aim is to see whether Trump did something illegal criminally under federal law. And I think that I'm quite optimistic that this will result in an indictment. Whether for the insurrection or not, Mark, we don't know. But I think for Mar-a-Lago, for the illegal retention of those documents, and certainly for the illegal handling of those documents, and I think that this tape is devastating to Trump because it shows that he knows that they haven't been declassified. He's talking in July 2021. He hasn't been president for 6 months. So even if you assume that what I think is the fiction, that he declassified them all on the way out the door, he did not declassify these, because had he declassified these, what he'd be saying on the tape at the meeting in July 2021 is, take a look, folks. Take a look at this. These are declassified. You can look at them. They're not Espionage Act covered anymore. These are all ones I declassified. And look at what a jerk this guy Milley is. But he didn't take that attitude. He took the attitude that he could not show them to anybody, that they were secret, that they were classified, that they were covered by the Espionage Act. And so he's making comments about them, but he's not showing them to people.
So, in that spirit, then I would ask you for a bit of a prediction, but this might be a broader prediction. David has very good predictions. The track record, I think, is unblemished. And unblemished is a ding word, by the way. The prediction relates to this, what I think is slow walking of these charges. Can you give me some sense of the timing of these various legal problems that Trump has in the form of coming indictments? Like you said, I think there will be an indictment on this. What would be the timetable on that?
I think this Mar-a-Lago indictment is going to come down this year. I know I'm sticking my neck out, and that the good thing about an unblemished record, you can never be so worried about your unblemished record that you start hedging, right? But I do think that he'll be indicted this year. I think this is particularly significant because there's not only probably this tape, but other tapes like it. And just, for your audience, here's what I think happened. I'm speculating a bit, okay? But I think that these tapes were either obtained in one of the searches, and, we all know about the Mar-a-Lago search, but there may have been searches of this golf club in New Jersey. There may have been searches of other Trump properties, and he didn't want to ballyhoo those. And remember, the only reason we know about Mar-a-Lago is that while the search was just ending, that's when Trump went in the media. This idea of leaks, the FBI leaks, the Department of Justice leaks, they did not leak even that Mar-a-Lago search. That was Trump saying, you won't believe what they did. They were in my bedroom. They were in Melania's drawers, blah, blah, blah. Look what the feds do.
David Katz with the Trump impression, by the way. Very strong. Yeah.
They singled me out. I know. It was a great loss to comedy that I went into criminal defense, Mark. I'm sure you'll agree.
It's a fallback. It's nice to have a fallback. Yeah.
Great loss. Yeah. So I'm not quitting my day job. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But I think that what I understand happened here was they either get it from these searches, and there may have been searches now of more than Mar-a-Lago, also scary for Trump. And it may have been that they got them by subpoenaing people, because this information was disseminated to people who had no security clearance. These were people who were running around like the ghostwriters who were writing what's his name, Meadows' book, which they have to put humiliatingly only sold 20,000 copies. I mean, you're the White House chief of staff and you sell 20,000 copies. I mean, I think Melania's hairdresser sold more than 20,000 copies, right? So they're putting together this book that's going nowhere, but they obviously want to sort of, make nice with Meadows, convince Meadows, oh, he's a big deal, inflate his ego. Trump has brought these ghostwriters. These ghostwriters have no security clearance at all. So, of course, they are saying that there was a tape running. There's somebody else, some lady whose name just came out, and she's running a tape all the time so that when these pearls of wisdom to put into Meadows' book are rolling out, nobody forgets these pearls of wisdom. They have it on tape. And, of course, Trump takes over the conversation and starts to say all of these things. So what I think happened at that point was they put people in the grand jury, Mark. And in the grand jury, it's very, very secret. When I worked with Adam Schiff, we were two of the rare people who've been inside a federal grand jury. A lot of people who have other great criminal experience, like been criminal defense lawyers, been public defenders, worked in the administration, but not walking in and out of grand juries, haven't had that experience inside the very secret grand jury. It's a crime if you disclose what happened in the grand jury, but it's not a crime for the witness. So what normally happens in these situations is it's not the prosecutor who leaks it. It's not a grand juror or an FBI agent who might be in there testifying, but you call civilian witnesses in there. So the civilian witness says, yes, I was writing that book. I really don't recall a lot about it. I'm a ghostwriter. I'm doing a lot of things. Well, did the president, ex-president say this and that? And the other thing? Well, I don't really recall. Well, Mr. Witness, let me play this tape in front of the grand jury to refresh your recollection. And they play the tape. Now the witness says, oh, yes, I remember this, I remember that, I don't remember the third thing. And guess what? When the witness walks out, the witness says to the lawyer, who's not allowed to be in the grand jury room along with the witness, hey, they asked me about this, they asked me about that, they really gave me heat on this other stuff, they played the tape, I don't remember a lot of it, I do remember enough a lot of it, am I in trouble on account of this? And now two people know about it, right? That witness and the lawyer. And I suspect that that's where the leak came from. I suspect that CNN doesn't have the tape to actually play because, again, it was heard in that matter. It was played, but it couldn't be recorded because the person is a witness in front of the grand jury or they're the lawyer, and so they're in no position to tape what was played to the witness in the grand jury. You with me?
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Then that's a little walk through the steps that will lead up to this indictment. It's interesting, too, Donald Trump's efforts to point to the election as, stolen, et cetera, extended to many people and through many means, right? Meaning, had Giuliani, you had the pillow guy, you had, you had legal challenges, you had Sidney Powell, you had all these others, the band of crazies was extensive. Then, of course, you had the violent attempted overthrow, etc. Along the way, there was this guy, Christopher Krebs. Now, Christopher Krebs was the guy who was the cybersecurity official in the U.S. government, that was looking at the other allegation, which was somehow that the election wasn't secure, and he was charged with, and his agency was charged with, and those under him, looking at the election and making sure that the 2020 election was cool, was okay, was secure. So he came back with the conclusion that it was secure, that it was legitimate, and that there were no problems with the 2020 election. What happened with Christopher Krebs was he was fired a short time later. And it's thought that firing was related to, not getting the conclusion that you wanted type thing. Now there have been subpoenas issued to people in the presidential personnel office because they are looking into the firing of Krebs and the timeline of events leading up to the January 6th Capitol attack. This is connected to the Jack Smith J6 indictments, which I would imagine might be the last thing on the Katz timeline that will be forwarded. Your comments?
Well, you're audience will never forget this guy Krebs' name if you watch Dobie Gillis, because I think the beatnik on that old TV show was named Maynard G. Krebs. So you'll remember Krebs, and Krebs may turn out to be a major figure in all of this. Krebs was a loyal Republican. He was picked by Trump. But when he was put in charge of this cybersecurity thing, and everybody was saying, oh, you know, Hugo Chavez from the grave somehow controlled these machines, and they didn't add it up right, and there were all of these boxes that were found, and the computers were fooled around with, Krebs turned around and said, no, I've examined all of that. My experts in government have examined that. It's all nonsense. There's no malfunctioning of machines. There's nothing wrong with the count. And of course, he was in charge of the cybersecurity office. And if you look at the things like Dominion and some of the other claims, they really come down to a false claim that there was something wrong with the cyber. There was something wrong with the count or the electronics of the count. Here was the person in charge of the government effort to make sure there was nothing wrong with the count. He worked for Trump. He was a political appointee. And he said there's nothing that was monkeyed with. There was nothing that was wrong with any of the electronics, the cyber, anything. That particularly infuriated Trump. Trump fired him 5 or 6 days later after he issued that report. This is in that critical period, Mark, when we're between the vote and when the transition ought to have started and Trump ought to have acknowledged defeat. But this is these frantic efforts to somehow stay in power that Trump is engaged in. After he fires that fellow Krebs, he says, oh, it was highly inaccurate report. Of course, there's no evidence that there was anything inaccurate about the report. And then come the really gross efforts to tamper with the election, to change the person in charge at the Department of Justice and to put Clark in charge there and fire the people who are in charge of the Department of Justice toward the end. And there's the call that I mentioned before into Georgia, where Trump personally gets on the phone and says, find me 11,000 votes, even though by that time the vote has been counted and recounted and certified. And then there were also the efforts to get alternate slates. So for Jack Smith, this shows that he's not just looking at Mar-a-Lago. He's showing that Trump knew that he'd lost the election, that it was clear that there was no evidence on which he could base any of these fanciful claims that he somehow had been cheated or that there was a big steal or anything like that. And then when you add the insurrection on top of it and all of the incendiary speeches that Trump made and the things that he did, that's the case that Trump committed a crime knowing that he'd lost, pretending that he'd won, and riling people up to have that huge riot and insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th. So it looks like both of these cases are going to get indicted, but I'm not sure they're going to be indicted together. They may not be in one long indictment. Jack Smith may start off with the Mar-a-Lago because it seems so clear and so devastating for Trump. And it would be less controversial. You'd have all these arguments, well, didn't Biden do it? Well, no, Biden didn't do it because Biden didn't obstruct justice. He didn't do anything like resisting a subpoena, like moving documents, knowing that they were going to search in place A, try to hide them in place B. I mean, that's just raw criminal conduct. That's the kind of thing that you see in criminal cases where the person is just stupid, right? Just stupid. And they say, oh, well, they won't think to look in the bathroom, so I'll put him in the bedroom. And he tells somebody, move it from the bathroom to the bedroom. I think they'll only search the bathroom. And you just look at it and say, my God, this guy is so guilty of the crime. And he's so guilty, he has such knowledge of criminality, because look at this thing that he did to obstruct justice. This is a pure, classic, just raw obstruction of justice case at this point. And when you add the tape and you add the proof of Trump's criminal knowledge, I do think that this year we will see, later this year, we'll see an indictment of Trump, not one of his subordinates, of Trump for the Mar-a-Lago retention of documents, the showing of documents. And I believe that'll be not just under the classified documents laws, but under the Espionage Act.
Yeah, espionage is one of those words that seems particularly radioactive. The obstruction of justice seems so clear. Even you just, sort of recapitulated the events and what he did. And recapitulated is a ding word, yeah. But I wonder, you mentioned all of these things, and you mentioned the Espionage Act, but you didn't mention obstruction. Was that implied maybe at the beginning of what you were saying?
Yes, that this would be there may be an argument that he could have taken some of those documents with him. I don't really see it, but he does have certain power to declassify things. And you remember when Trump wanted to put out his side of the story, suddenly he declassified things and say, well, you see how this supports me? And people are like, wait a second, I thought this was the nuclear capacity of Iran. I thought that was classified. How did it suddenly become declassified at 9 a.m. and Trump is giving a speech about it? We have to be really tough on Iran because they have growing nuclear capacity. You think, oh my God, isn't that top secret? Apparently the president does have power like that. He ought to be reined in, of course, and not disclose stuff like that. But just, Mark, it's important for people to understand this Iran thing. There was a huge controversy. Trump's no longer the president. He's out at his resort, his golf resort, not in Florida, but in New Jersey. He's got this group of people around, and they're reporting that Trump was really planning an October, November surprise. He was going to invade Iran or have some bellicose action toward Iran. And people were going to say, oh, my God, the country's at war, salute the flag, vote for the incumbent, and Trump would keep power. And that was what was being reported at the time. Presumably, Trump is saying something like, I was going to start an October surprise war with Iran. Look at this memo from Milley, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He had a whole plan to go into Iran militarily. Now, that's really frightening because to the extent there was any details about how we were going to go into Iran militarily, that's unbelievably provocative with not just Iran, but Iran's allies and the world to talk about such a thing. Can you imagine if the memo said Iran's plans to invade Israel or bomb Israel? I mean, we could be on the verge of World War III, just people talking about it. So this is not a big joke that Trump had these classified documents, that they were highly militarily secret. And whatever authority a president may have to declassify something, Mark, an ex-president 6 months out of office had absolutely no business retaining these documents, showing them to anybody, talking about them with anybody. And of course, it's of great value to Israel and other countries like Saudi Arabia, who are potentially people who would put a lot of money in Trump's pocket, that he would keep those documents. There is a link between apparently what Trump kept and what Trump thought he could monetize.
Okay, so bellicose is a ding word. I have my last question then, because now I just am trying to get the hierarchy of badness, okay? Is obstruction of justice a more intense charge and case to be brought? I mean, that is to say, more from the standpoint of the results of an obstruction of justice, penalties might be the word. Obstruction of justice worse than document sequestration and removal of federal documents. Which one is worse for Trump?
Well, the Espionage Act is the worst, that he's monetizing documents, that he's trying to sell them to somebody, regardless of the best interests of our national security, but just to put money in his pocket. I mean, if that's what Jack Smith ends up having, it's hard to believe that even his base would stand by him. That's like Benedict Arnold kind of stuff, right? That's helping the enemy of the United States just to line your pocket.
Right.
So I think
okay.
That's the worst one of all. The obstruction of justice.
But David, if he wasn't selling the documents, he just had them because out of his own braggadocio or ego or whatever. Where does that? If you take the commercial aspect out of it, where does it leave it?
Well, let's assume it's just braggadocio and what people with no security clearance learn from that. And I'm making something up, okay? That our plan is to sink all the oil tankers in the Gulf of Hormuz. If the plan that Milley had was to knock out certain computer systems, that we actually have put our computer systems in there so we could disable all of Iran's computers instantly. Think of what an amazing breach of our national security is. If people without security clearance know that the plan is to hit the oil tankers, they know the plan is to knock out computer systems that Iran doesn't know are bugs that we put in their computer system. This is just absolutely awful stuff. The difficulty is talking about it. If you could talk about it and prove it, even the base would get it. Even they would say, you know what, this Trump, he went crazy for money. I like the guy, I like some of his ideas, but he went crazy with greed. Even they would see it that way, but it's very difficult, Mark, to talk about these issues to even have an intelligent conversation because it's full of national security information. What was in that 4-page summary? Some military experts have pointed out it's probably not a detailed attack plan on Iran. That would be much bigger. But certainly there'd be an executive summary that might have something from Milley like that. And Milley can't talk about it. Nobody can talk about it because it's so highly classified. And I hope your audience thinks about it. Plans to attack other countries, obviously we have them, but our analysis of the vulnerabilities of other countries and therefore the analysis of what they would do back to us, what our vulnerabilities may be, these are the crown jewels of national security, and nobody from any party ought to be keeping them or talking about them publicly.
Wow, so well said. David Katz, great analysis today and also a prediction. So we will see. We'll join you next week. David, so appreciate your contributions always. Thank you. And
I'll be on by video. I'll be on by video next week. I just had to do an audio
you will.
one today.
I love it. All
Bye,
right,
everybody.
The great David Katz, everyone. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
My wife wants some vegetables for coup d'etat.
I was a basketball referee.
Feels great, baby.
Who's Mark Thompson?
It's unbelievably offensive.
What he's got going here is a situation.
I was fortunate. Everyone I worked with made me better at my job.
You are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
Smash it with your iron rod.
We are going to go to Kim. Kim is...
We are? Yeah.
Well, I think so. Yeah, we're going to go to Kim for news. Then on the other side, a conversation that we had about the nun, the well-preserved nun. And I know we do it all. It's quite the breadth of things that go on this program. But so Kim's news, then that. I haven't cleared this with the tower, but I'm hoping that that's good. Kim, you're good with it?
I'm good with it. Yeah.
We live out loud on this show. Tony says okay, so
Thanks, Tony.
That is everybody. So
Kim, how are you?
After a staff discussion and a brief briefing with you, the audience, that will be the plan. Smash the like button like a boss. Thank you for being part of our community that supports this show. We so appreciate it. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. In a surprise turn of events, I just got a text from Rich at Tenuta Vineyards, and so we'll have this report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. And
that's very cool, man.
Right. There's something special going on out there.
There's something special.
Mm-hmm. But first, yes, President Biden is urging the U.S. Air Force Academy graduates to never forget their sacred oath to the Constitution. The president delivering the commencement speech this morning in Colorado Springs, he said the U.S. military is the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen, and he noted this year's graduating class is one of the most diverse in history.
Well, I love the force, love the graduates, love those that wear proudly the uniform. I just feel as though the military budget is so bloated, ridiculously bloated. And it's just sad that those people who do wear the uniform, the vets who do serve the country honorably, they aren't taken care of the way they should be. So I have always the mixed feeling when I see these proud Americans. I wish we took care of them instead of military contractors.
Somebody who didn't take care of the veterans, didn't he cut the veterans benefits when he was president? Former President Trump hitting the campaign trail in Iowa today while speaking from Des Moines, Trump laying out how he helped the U.S. farmers during his time as president. He railed against President Biden and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's challenging Trump for the 2024 Republican nomination. It turns out that teen birth rates are at another record low in the United States. The CDC reports teen birth rates dropped 3% last year, smaller drop than the previous years, as teen birth rates have fallen an average of 8% every year since 2007. There is a new plan to increase public safety in San Francisco. Mayor London Breed's new budget includes hiring 220 police officers over the next 2 years. She is urging people, be the change you want to see.
Oh.
She
That's
says
good.
efforts to end open-air drug dealing are underway, and rehab programs will be expanded. Tax incentives will be offered to bring in new businesses, and more money will go toward ending homelessness.
I had a good time at the Black Cat.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, I'm all for all those things she mentioned. We're all for.
I mean, don't know about you and whether or not you know who
Raphael Sadiq
and Dwayne Wiggins are.
Yeah. Maybe they'll be involved in this effort.
Every possibility. Every possibility.
Be the thing that you see. What does she say?
Be the change you want to see.
Yeah. Be the change you want to see.
Who is having that conversation?
Well, Mayor Breed is having it, Oprah.
Meanwhile, San Francisco is changing how it answers 911 calls involving the homeless. Instead of police,
press 1 if you're the victim of a smash and grab. Press 2 if there's violence going on close to you. Press 3 if you've seen someone publicly defecating. Press 4 for public urination. This is the San Francisco 911 line. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I can't even. That's too good. That should be the next story. But instead of police, a new street crisis team will respond as part of a 1-year pilot program. So about 25 people will be available 12 hours on weekdays from 7 a.m. to 3:30 on weekends. The mayor says they won't work late nights in order to make them feel safe. So the city's goal, reduce homelessness by 50% over the next 5 years.
It's a good effort. I don't mean to laugh. Sorry. Go ahead.
I guess the homeless violence is less during the day than it is at night. Maybe.
Yeah.
Seriously?
I don't know.
Right. Maybe it's funny, you know, I did the ride along with the cops, and I asked them, I mean, are there more cops? Because during the day, you've got the station is filled with detectives and, you know, these administrative people. So it seems like there's more going on when you go for a ride along and you go to a police station at night. They're not all those people there because the administrative people, the detectives, et cetera, aren't necessarily in the station. But the cops, there are more of them. And I said, well, you know, are there more cops? And they said, yeah, we have more on at night because that's when the the stuff goes sideways. So so it's odd in this case. This particular detail won't be on at night, you're saying. They'll be on during the day.
Street team is only daytime hours because, you know, they don't have guns. They don't have protection. Whatnot.
No, they're not there for they're not there for violent situations, of course. Yeah.
So that's
the street team. Did they have a street team when you were used to work in like rock radio or whatever? Didn't you have like a street team out there handing out T-shirts? And
yeah, they did something completely different.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a different kind of street.
They were fun.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so do we have 60 seconds to see the new San Francisco spot?
Tony Dewey, you're the expert. Tony?
Yes.
Thanks, Tony.
Go for it.
Okay, do it.
Go for it. Okay. All right, so they should have used your voiceover, but they didn't. A new press 1.
Seriously, what the
right.
A new $6 million campaign is aiming to boost tourism. It's called Always San Francisco. It includes a 1-minute commercial of the most iconic sights and sounds like the Golden Gate Bridge, the Painted Ladies in Alamo Square, Lombard Street. The ad is already airing in New York and Boston, Washington, D.C., Houston, and Chicago, referring to the city as the most fascinating 49 square miles on the planet. Okay.
All right.
We're going to see it.
This is the spot. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll play it for you now. This is from the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, I guess, right?
Welcome to the most beautiful city in the world, where it's never the same, but always San Francisco.
San Francisco, I'm coming home again, never to roam again. I come, San Francisco, I don't mean Frisco. San Francisco, here I come. Here I come. Ready? Hey! San Francisco. Right when I arrive,
Why does it sound so tinny? I like it. Always San Francisco says, come alive, sftravel.com. Why does it sound so tinny, Tony? Tinny Tony? Is there a reason for that?
I think that was the spot itself, wasn't it?
No.
Thanks, Tony.
Wow.
So that's
anyway, but I don't mean to focus on that. I'm sure it sounds good. They make it look great. They make San Francisco look great and fun. I mean, and, San Francisco it is great and fun. San Francisco this is why it's so sad to watch all this stuff happen. Because San Francisco is great. It is fun. It is amazing. The vistas are remarkable. The people are the coolest.
I would argue there aren't really dancers down on the Embarcadero like that. I mean, you're not going to walk down there and see the dancers.
I want to see them pouring tequila shots on Pier 39. Otherwise, I want my money back. Come on.
You just
woo.
Yeah.
It's possible you could have a homeless flash mob dance team, but I don't know.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
That would be funny. You take the parody is these open air drug camps with the tents and all the rest of it. And then they all pop out and then they start dancing it's you know what I mean?
They can be fun too. They're not just, a one-dimensional character of the city.
Right. It's not just where you come to get meth.
Yeah.
They can hold a beat.
That's our new $6 million 60-second ad called Always San Francisco. And again, already running in all these other cities, aiming to get people to come to San Francisco. When you get them to come to San Francisco, though, you need to have it all cleaned up and ready for to welcome the guests, right? It's like you clean your house before you have people come over.
Yeah. Well, that's a work in progress, The first guest won't get as clean a house as maybe the last guests. But
lastly, speaking of a clean house, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez are moving in to a new Beverly Hills mansion.
What?
Wow, that's nice. Look at that pool.
House,
it's insane.
That
pool is immense. It looks like a lake.
It's like a moat. Yeah. This is on Wallingford Drive, and it reportedly cost the power couple about $61 million. And honestly, that's disappointing. Wasn't it Beyonce and Jay-Z who just paid $200 million, and Affleck and J-Lo $61 million? I think they got beat.
Well, I mean,
morning.
Maybe I don't know who got beat. They might have gotten a better deal. 61.
Maybe. Maybe that's the case. It's a
look at
house.
you. You want the most expensive house on the block.
Well,
give me the 61 million.
So that's what it looks like from the back. You
have interior shots or front shots?
Lounger. This is what it looks like from the front.
Wow.
So quite stately as you pull up. It's very parking lot-ish in the front. You would think there would be some type of fountain or
I see. Yeah. Well,
lighted fountain, maybe playing J-Lo's songs.
They just got it. Give them time.
Yeah. So this house is an expansive 38,000 square feet. It has 12 bedrooms. It's got a 12-car garage. And how many bathrooms does it have, Mark Thompson?
14.
It has 24 bathrooms.
Wow, that's very strong. Very strong.
24, a lot of places to pee in Ben Affleck and J-Lo's house. So you never have to hold it. It's okay. 24 bath, 12-car garage. We're well on our way.
I get what people are saying. They're kind of finding the architecture boring. Chris says McMansion. I think you got to give them some credit. I think on the inside, it could probably be pretty spectacular. And I want to say that I mean, I like that we're looking down our nose at it somehow, but that's pretty spectacular in the outside also. I mean, the backyard with that pool, and I mean, it's just magnificent. Come on, guys.
It's spread over a 5-acre exclusive promontory. It has a one-of-a-kind indoor sports complex with a basketball, a pickleball, a gym, a boxing ring, sports lounge, a bar.
Wow.
It's 8 minutes from the Beverly Hills Hotel, 20 minutes from the Van Nuys Airport. Both entrances can be accessed through private gated streets. Yeah. So they're calling it a modern mansion.
I think it looks like it. I know everybody's being very sort of tending to be disparaging toward the two of them, but I know a nice house when I see it. And I think they got a real nice one.
$60,850,000.
Wow. That's pretty sweet, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, and so lastly,
you never have to really use the same bathroom twice. It's 24 bathrooms. You can pretty much, you only have to double up on the weekends.
Yeah, you really don't. And lastly, I wanted to say this report is indeed sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards, because look at what is going on at Tenuta right now. I got a text. It says Enid, who is a huge fan of the show.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And
I know.
Dwight, they are tasting right now at this very moment. They are at Tenuta Vineyards doing a tasting. Enid said, we're missing the show to come wine taste.
All right.
They'll watch the show tonight. They love the show, and they are out there making friends for life.
Look at those happy people.
It's fantastic.
I love it. I do. I think that's awesome.
Very cool. So glad when people come together like that.
Well, I want to, excuse me, before you lock out, as we say, and that's the jargon, lock out. I want to advise our stations on the Mark Thompson Network that we will be running a little long so that we can bring you this piece of marvelous programming. Now, Tony, would be the time to then, you see, run.
Do you feel it? It's the Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Feels great, baby.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Ross Gator just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
What he's got going here is a situation.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
You cannot say you love your country.
Let me kick down the door and talk to my stepsons and daughters.
Don't make us beg. Subscribe, like, and share. The Mark Thompson Show.
Why are you yelling? It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal.
What's a guilty pleasure you have?
Where are my weed smokers at?
You know it. You know it. You know it.
Did you really just do that?
I really did it. And I'm excited to do it. And I would do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that jam, man. Really do love it. Yeah. It's swinging, you know. It's swinging. Smash the like button like that if you like the jam.
Rod.
Yeah, that's right. Give me some thumbs up, baby.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I am particularly drawn to this story.
Okay.
Kim. And it's the one that may ring a bell because these stories do roll around. In fact, after I tell you this story, I will share with you some of these other similar sightings, if I can, similar signs, you might even call it. Signs from beyond, signs from the spirit world, signs from the divine, signs from, if I can use the word, the Lord.
Oh.
This
is the word from the Lord.
And he is not happy. That's the...
this is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
Travelers have congregated in rural Missouri to see a nun's body. That's right. Here she is in better times. She passed away 4 years ago. And it's a little odd.
They're trying to see her body now?
Yeah. And it is somewhat extraordinary, I think all would agree, that 4 years after she's passed away, her body shows no signs of decay.
What?
Yes. According to the Catholic News Agency, The body of Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster, who died at age 95. Good run, I want to say, sister. She was exhumed roughly 4 years after her death so that she could be moved to a final resting place that was different than where she was originally put.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
See, when you say the body was exhumed, I'm thinking Courtney needs to be in here to talk about murder.
No, it was apparently moved to a final resting place inside the monastery chapel was the plan. So she was put in the ground initially until they could prepare her final resting place inside the monastery chapel.
Okay.
When the coffin was unearthed, Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster's body was apparently, quote, incorrupt, which in Catholic tradition refers to the preservation of the body from normal decay.
Why did they open the casket? Just to check, double check, make sure it's her? I mean, who's looking?
You're right. It's
weird.
I mean, it's a wild idea. Maybe I don't know. It was part of the. I'm now a little out of my depth on the, what's tradition.
You just don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't. And it would seem to fall in. It would seem to fly in the face of general protocol to open it up, as Kim says. Wouldn't you just move her in? It's her. I don't know why.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
So for whatever reason, they did open it up. And they noticed that Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster's body, as I say, was, quote, incorrupt. Now, that in Catholic tradition, that is a term. And that refers to the preservation of the body from normal decay. The remains were intact, even though the body had not been embalmed. It was in a wooden coffin buried in the ground.
Not pumped full of chemicals at all?
No.
Wow.
The discovery has captured the attention of some members of the church. There is an investigation underway, but meantime...
It's a miracle.
Exactly.
Does that mean she gets to be a saint?
No, it's not there yet. As you know, sainthood has several leaps along the way, but
little hoops to jump through there.
But the diocese says it's important to protect the integrity of the mortal remains of Sister Wilhelmina to allow for a thorough investigation of what's going on. Meantime, Bishop Johnston, James Johnston.
That's not fake. That's real.
Yeah. He has invited all parishioners and those who are the faithful, as we call them, to continue praying during this investigation of God's will.
Is that the church where her body is laying there now?
Yes, it is, Kim. That is the church. Statement from the diocese notes, incorruptibility is very rare. Well-established process to pursue the cause for, and now I call upon Kim's word, the possibility of pursuing sainthood. Yes, she could become a saint. You were right, Kim. Meantime, there are people coming from all around to see her, to worship there. In Catholicism, incorruptible saints give witness to the truth of the resurrection and the life that is to come. This could be big time, is another way to put it.
Okay.
And we're watching this. I mean, in general, when...
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
In general, when we bury a body at our human decomposition facility, says the head of the decomposition facility, Nicholas V. Pasclaqua, he said, we expect it will take 5 years for the body to become skeletonized.
Oh.
That is, you're learning way more about this than you ever really wanted to know. But that is without a coffin or any other container or wrapping surrounding the remains. So for this body, which was buried in a coffin, again, this is according to this authority in such matters, I personally don't find it too surprising that the remains are relatively well preserved after only 4 years. Needless to say, nobody who has been around the diocese has seen anything like this before. And
nobody has ever put something like this together.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything like it before.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
And of course,
my dear friend Brett Burkhardt.
Oh, I did. Yeah, Brett was. Some days Brett would come in and he would show signs of decomposition. I don't mean to pick on him, but that is the situation with the sister. And I give these nuns a lot of, particularly in the modern age, a lot of credit. 95, she's passed away. They're looking into her. But meantime, you know, if she really is like ramping up to sainthood, get in early, pray around her, and you never know. Maybe something good happens. The whole process of coming to these various places that take on a sacred aura because of something that's going on that appears as though it,
miracle.
Right. It might have like divine hand in it.
Yeah.
The one that comes to mind typically is the crying Virgin Mary. You know, there is a lot of that. And there was a crying Virgin Mary in Chicago. There are crying Virgin Marys in Latin America. But the other part of this equation is those who see the images of the Virgin Mary, Jesus, those are the big ones, in like common things. Like, you know, somebody will be eating mashed potatoes and they'll say, well, wait a minute, look, stop. And, you know, they look down and it is the image of Jesus there in the butter in the mashed potatoes or whatever it might be, you know. And I sent to Kim a few through history, people who found Jesus in their food.
That really does look like Jesus.
It does look like Jesus on that potato chip. It does. What about the next one down? This is Jesus on a Cheeto. The whole Cheeto in Jesus's.
That looks more like Father Junipero Serra.
It does, by the way. It does. But the next one down really looks like Jesus.
I'm not seeing that.
That is in a fish stick.
Oh, I can see it now. Okay. Yeah.
And the next one down.
But I can't see that it's a Jesus face.
Well,
why do we think it's Jesus?
Looks like I'll tell you, it looks like a Shroud of Turin kind of Jesus. I see it. I see it.
Breakfast taco.
In the breakfast taco, you can either see just a bit of taco, or you could see
Charles Manson.
This one is tougher for me. It looks like sort of an angry Jesus.
At the very top, it looks like Charles Manson.
I don't see.
I think you should eat that breakfast burrito.
Boy, between your other comment and this Charles Manson thing, you're in trouble.
I'm on a roll. I'm going straight to hell.
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
This is a word from this Lord, Mark Thompson, and he's not happy. Here's the pancake. Now, I really don't see Jesus in the pancake.
I see two figures here on the top. Who are they?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't. Oh, Jesus and Mary. It's Jesus and Mary in a pancake.
Okay.
Found by Marilyn Smith, apparently.
All right.
Here's a great one in this banana peel.
Oh, that looks like Satan.
How dare you? That looks like Christ. How dare you? The banana peel.
That's
My
kind
God.
of freaky.
One more word out of you. And you'll have to apologize to all the preachers and pastors.
I apologize to every preacher and pastor.
Yes, I do.
This one looks like an angel.
Behalf.
I see an angel.
In the orange?
Yeah. Little wings up here, maybe a little body, angel halo.
No. But in the center of the center of the orange,
right there.
You know what? Face. There's no helping you because you're not going to be saved. You're really not. I'm sorry. I'd like to.
You just don't get it.
You don't, Kim. You don't. You've really strayed
right
so
there,
far
guys. It's right in the
from
middle
the divine.
There. Yeah.
In non-bread, this is the best Jesus I could find.
Wow.
Right there in the non-bread.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Seriously? What the
how can you say that? I really see it. I think that is an incredible likeness of Christ.
Okay, I'll go with that. The non-bread is the winner.
That's at an Indian restaurant in the non-bread. And
apparently Jesus likes Indian food.
And finally, the pierogi with Jesus's face. That is Donna Lee, who found Jesus in that pierogi. Sold it on eBay, by the way, for $1,775. You're not kidding. Yeah. That's it. And that's
the pizza.
Yeah, that one I don't. I mean, I see it, but I don't.
Kind of looks like a horror movie.
Yeah, it doesn't. That's at Posh Pizzas in Brisbane, Australia. All right, let's wrap this up. That is the banana chip and the pretzel.
No. As these goes on, they get more and more.
Right.
There's a Cheeto on the
black
cross.
and white, clear as crystal.
Yeah, it's not clear as crystal. That's not a bad one. Is that creme brulee?
Marmite?
Yeah.
Ice cream. No.
I don't know. You can find more.
Google it.
Yeah, Google it, and you'll find more.
Virgin Mary and Funyuns.
I'm going to get us out of this before Kim says something else sacrilegious.
Will she not be done yet? This
Look,
is awesome.
I'm
Look at these
offended.
little Jesuses and potatoes.
Wait a minute. Let me go back to those potatoes. How could you eat those potatoes? You couldn't.
Oh, fry them up. Let's eat them up. You bet.
That is you
right
are.
in.
I'm shocked and
the seitan
offended.
Is pretty good. Yeah. I don't know what seitan is, but I can see that.
It's not. Well, it's definitely not Satan. It's Seitan. It's
Seitan. I said.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just saying it. Make sure you get that right.
Oh, thank God that's over. Okay, that was great though. I loved it.
It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, I don't know. There was some good stuff in there. Anyway, may the Lord bless you,
and
everyone.
Also you.
And all right, good stuff.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, I don't know what happened. I was touched. I don't mind telling you. Yep. I'm feeling good. I started slow, now I got a bounce in my step. Nothing like an image to bring me home. Thank you again, Karen Q. Thank you for your guest regarding coffee. This is part of the money saved making my own drip coffee. And thank you for being fabulous. Come on.
I stand corrected.
Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm glad you.
Thank you so much.
That is a great coffee house, and you're going to hear more from them. Walter, tip jar action. Aloha, baby. Thanks for 10 spot. Thank you, Walter. Tony, thanks for always being so cool.
Thanks, Tony.
Making us your 1500th job. Vivian.
I'm Shadow
Thank you for the 10
Mark
spot,
Thompson
Vivian.
Show. Bye-bye.
That's a big shout out to Vivian and Kelly and Wes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Until tomorrow, thanks everybody for all your support. Bye-bye.